Well, hey everyone, this is Shane Donahoo. This is my lending partner that I work with. He works for a company called Movement Mortgage, which he's going to tell you a little bit about here in just a minute. He's local here in Orlando. And so, Shane, where is your home office?
Yeah, I'm actually at it right now. We are in Oviedo, Florida, and I also work out of your office in Winter Park,
Right.
and sometimes I'm out of the office at the parks near downtown Orlando. So kind of
Oh,
all over the place.
oh, awesome.
Yeah, happy to
Now,
be here,
how,
man. Thanks for having me too.
yeah, absolutely. Now, how long have you been in business with a lender, Shane?
Yeah, so I've been doing loans since 2016.
Okay.
I started off my career doing solely manufactured home loans in a company in Knoxville, Tennessee. I had the chance to move here to Florida in 2019. Saw that the market was great. Wife and I love Florida. We're big Disney nuts, so we just saw the chance and came down. And I've been with Movement Mortgage since 2019 at this point, so love it.
Now, you're from Tennessee, right?
Yeah, Knoxville.
Yeah,
Yep.
did you go to UT?
I did, yeah.
That's
GBO.
right.
Go
That's right.
Vols. We're rebuilding. We're still rebuilding.
Always, always. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to
Well,
UT, loved it. It was great.
very cool, very cool. We're glad to have you here in
Yeah.
Florida. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, waste no time.
Yeah.
So tell me this. John Smith is looking to buy a house.
Yeah.
Uh, After they call a realtor, of course, what is their first step in the home buying process?
Yeah, basically they need to get pre-approved for a loan, assuming they can't pay cash, which, that's kind of the constant these days is most folks don't have 500,000 just sitting around. So when it's time to buy a home, you need a mortgage. So do your research, ask for recommendations, give me a call. It's time to just kind of ask questions and kind of figure out what you're trying to accomplish. And from there, we do an application. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and we can start looking at your options at that point. So yeah, step one is to figure out, what your needs are, and then talk to someone about getting pre-approved for a loan.
So what happened? What's the result of getting a pre-approval? You get a letter, right? And it
Mhm.
tells you how much you have to spend.
Yeah, basically it's kind of a generic letter. So basically you'll do an application. We'll pull your credit. We've got to see what the credit score is. We've got to see what debts you have on a credit score. And from there, we can kind of craft what kind of loan works for you with what you're trying to accomplish. How much of a mortgage payment can we fit into your current debt to income ratio? So these loans are controlled by credit score and debt to income ratio. Those are probably the two most important things. So the pre-approval letter will say you are pre-approved for X amount of dollars. This is a conventional loan or an FHA loan, and you have been approved for a loan amount of, X amount. So it'll show basically sales price and down payment on it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, so that's like basically your budget for shopping. You take that letter and then we can figure out, okay, what kind of house can someone go look for? Because if
Yeah.
you're looking for a $800,000 house, but you're only pre-approved for $500,000, well, then you're kind of wasting your time because you're not going to be able to purchase the $800,000 house, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really important point. A lot of folks come to me and say, you know what, I don't know what I'm pre-approved for. I've never done this before. This is kind of step one. I'm just trying to figure it out. So, on day one, we're going to go over, okay, hey, what do you want to buy? What are you looking at? Then we'll do the application. Then we can look at payment. Here's what 10% is going to look like. Here's what 3% is going to look like cash down. 20%. We can go through all the options. We can look at different loan types. And then from there, you can kind of figure out, do I want to maybe look at a lower sales price, or am I comfortable with more? A lot of times what people can afford and what they want to pay are two completely different numbers. So you want to have that information going into it before you start making offers, because hey, you need to know what the payment's going to be before you place an offer on a $500,000 home. That's a very, very important part. So when I work with my clients, I tell them, hey, send me the address of the homes you're looking at. Let's run the numbers on these. That way, when you're out shopping, you have the confidence to make an offer that you're comfortable with.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Now, so when you pull credit, that hurts somebody's credit score, right? So what kind of damage are we talking about to a credit score? Because I know people are worried about getting their credit pulled.
Yeah, for sure. So it's typically about 3 to 5 points, and it's going to be 30 days from the day we pull it. So if I pull your credit today, it's going to show me your score right now.
Oh,
And then about
that's
30 days from now, you can see that small adjustment.
okay. And
Yeah.
that's 3 to 5 points. That's nothing.
Now, that's the cost of credit. You're gonna have to get your credit pulled whenever you do major purchases, just like buying a car, student loans, anything like that. We do have the option to do soft credit pulls. So
Mhm.
if you fill out an application and say, hey, you know what, I'm not really ready for the hard credit pull. Maybe I'm rebuilding credit. We
Yeah.
can do a soft credit pull. It's only going to pull one of the three bureaus. There's Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. So a soft pull is only going to pull one of three. It's not going to affect your credit score. It'll kind of give us an idea what we're working with, but it's not really good enough for a solid, hey, this is a 100% pre-approval,
Gotcha.
which most sellers are going to want to see. The importance of the pre-approval letter is, hey, when I place an offer on this home, I'm telling you I'm going to get a mortgage. I have my financing in place, and I've already been pre-approved by a licensed loan originator. So that means I've looked at your income, your credit, and your assets, and I've determined, hey, this borrower can afford X amount of dollars, and their money, their financing is in place. So sellers want to see that. There's nothing saying you have to have a pre-approval letter to submit an offer, but I would assume you as a realtor, you probably don't like submitting those offers because there's not much behind it. It's just, hey, this
Sure.
is my word. And most sellers are going to want to see that letter, I would say.
That's true.
Yeah.
That you're exactly right. So when we submit an offer, if it's not a cash offer, if there is financing, we are required to submit a pre-approval letter from a lender, from
Hmm.
you, showing that the buyer is qualified to actually purchase the house. Because otherwise, it means nothing. I can submit a offer for a house that's $5 million, but I can't afford a $5 million
Yeah,
house. So
it's
that
as
offer
good as the
means
paper it's
nothing.
written on.
Exactly, exactly. So
Yeah, yeah.
okay, so we'll talk about in a couple minutes, we'll just talk about like how people can help themselves in preparing to get approved. And if they have questions about, what kinds of things can we be doing to make sure that we're pre-approved. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Before we
Yeah,
get to that, one of the hot topics right now, of course, is interest rates.
yes,
Everybody's talking about interest rates.
of course.
Where are they at today? So
Right now, depending on, so it's different for borrowers, different for different loans, but probably looking at around 7.75 to 8.5, depending on the loan, depending on the borrower, depending on the credit score, condo versus single family dwelling versus manufactured home. All of those things affect interest rates and what you're offered. But yeah, I'd say probably high sevens to mid eights right now.
now you
And
know
and we know that's high. Don't get me
right.
wrong. I know that's high. Historically, I'd say we're a little bit above average over the last 40 years. They've been tracking interest rates for about 40 years now, and I think the average is right around 7.5. We're a little bit above that right now.
Yeah, so we're not
But
too much.
as they go up, they will come down eventually. So that's
Now,
what we're planning for.
now you know a ton about interest rates because interest rates probably more than anything is what
Mhm.
affects your business. I mean, I'm
Oh,
guessing
yeah,
is that accurate?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, was a couple years ago, interest rates were 2.5%, and everyone was buying houses, and house
Mhm.
prices were skyrocketing because of
Yeah.
it. Is that normal? Is 2.5% interest rate? Is that normal, or is that kind of like a once in a generation kind of thing? We'll never see it again.
I hope we see it again. I have my doubts. Yeah, that that was a beautiful time to be a lender. I will say, I myself refinanced at the bottom.
Yeah.
I think when I moved to Florida, my interest rate was 4, and I ended up refinancing in the 2s once we got down at the bottom. Of course, I look at rates every day, so I was able to track that and pull the trigger when the time was right. But yeah, that might be a once in a lifetime occurrence. And most folks, a couple of my mentors who've been doing this for 20 years, said they've never seen them that low. So I wouldn't plan on them going that low ever again. It'll be great if they do. And we'll be here when that happens.
Yeah.
But I would say 3-4% is probably more of a good target
Okay.
somewhere in the future. We're nowhere close to that right now. But important thing on interest rate, yes, it's high. What you should remember about an interest rate is that is negotiable. You can change that in the future. If you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 8% today, you're very likely not going to pay 8% interest for 30 years.
Right.
Statistics show us that within 5 to 7 years, you're going to sell or refinance. So yes, the rate might be high right now, But another really important number to think about is sales price. A
Sure.
home that's $400,000 today might be 430 this time next year. So maybe
Exactly.
you waited for the rate to come down a little bit, but the sales price is higher, which means
Right.
your down payment needs to be higher now, which means the difference in payment might not be all that great. And those are numbers we can look at together. In fact, I look at those with clients all day
Right.
because that is a huge concern for folks right now, and a good concern. But sales price is a really important number too, because once you buy a house, the sales price will never change at that point. That's
That's
what you
right.
paid for it.
That's right.
Here in Central Florida, you'd probably know more about this than me, but I think appreciation is still expected to be in the low digits, like 4, 5, 6%, somewhere around there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Home values have been going up since 2020 and before that. I mean, it's likely to continue to happen. So
Yeah, there's about a 60-year average where the average sales price of a home has gone up
mhm.
about 4% every single year. I mean, it's just like clockwork. It's just kind of like just gone straight up.
Yep.
And there have been a couple years that have been higher, a couple years that have been lower, a couple years that the price has gone, the average sales price has gone down. But out of the last 60 years, that has happened 7 times. So the average sales price, listen, folks, the average sales price of a home in the United States over the last 60 years has gone down 7 times in 60 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is mind blowing. Prices have gone up year over year, 53 of those 60 times. So to hope that maybe prices will come down, I don't know.
So basically what you're saying is that if you're waiting for prices to come down, you very well could be waiting for a long time.
That's exactly
You just
right.
never know.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So from your viewpoint, right now, is it a good time to buy a house with interest rates where they are?
I think it's a great time. Of course, I'm a loan officer, so it's usually always a great time to buy.
Right.
But think about it this way: is in a market where rates are higher, you've got a lot of people that are saying, you know what, rates are high. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till they come back down. So you don't have as much competition right now. So you might have sellers that are more willing to negotiate with you because there's less people trying to buy their homes. A year or two ago, when rates were lower, sales prices were the highest they've been in a long time. A house that was maybe listed for 400 would have 10 buyers lined up, and it
Right.
would end up selling for 415, 420, because you've got all these buyers trying to buy the same home. The inventory was low. So you know, we could be in a situation like that if buyers end up waiting. They might say, well, okay, I'm going to wait till rates come down, wait till prices cool off. Well, like you mentioned before, prices might not cool off. And then this time next year, the same home is $20,000, $30,000 more, and you have a lot more competition at that point. So just
Exactly.
something to consider. In a market like this, you might have sellers willing to give you concessions towards your closing costs,
Okay.
or do things like buy down your interest rate. We have a product called the 2-1 buy down, where the first 2 years of your mortgage, your payments are amortized off a lower interest rate for the first 2 years. And you can actually ask the seller to pay that for you. So,
Wow.
it's a great time to be trying to take advantage of those types of loans and those types of tools to help you out better financially. So,
Okay.
and in the meantime, we'll keep an eye on rates. And once they do come down, we'll reach out and say, hey, here's what it could look like. Do you want to have a conversation about it? And then we'll just start it that way. There's nothing saying you have to refinance, but most people will, again, within 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. That's good
Yeah.
advice. So what are some helpful steps that people can take if they are planning to buy a house in, say 6 to 9 months, and they want to be well qualified or better qualified than they currently are? Whether that's raising their credit score or,
Yeah.
down payment money, whatever. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I would say first thing, don't take the money you have and then just go pay everything off. I see that a lot. People come to me and say, oh yeah, I knew I was going to apply for a loan, so I just went ahead and paid everything off. Well, you might not have had to have done that. And maybe you might have been better served at, hey, instead of 5% down, you could have done 10% down. That might help you qualify for a higher house payment. So I would say don't do anything with credit until you talk to a loan officer and they pull it, because then we can actually strategize. Hey, if you pay off these credit cards, or if you pay your car payment down to X amount of dollars, sometimes I don't have to count those in your debt to income ratio. So we can actually see what you have now. versus what's on your credit report now and strategize from there. When I pull credit, that credit report is good for 120 days. So you've got 4 months basically to use that credit report to close a loan. So, I always urge folks, hey, don't go pay off a car and then call me.
Yeah.
You might ultimately need to do that if you know your budget, but you also might be surprised because maybe we didn't need you to do that, and you could have used that money for other things like buying down your interest rate, paying upfront mortgage insurance, or putting more down, or asking for a higher sales price because you have more money to work with. So that's one of the things. And then the other flip side of that is don't go out and buy a new car. Now, obviously life happens. I've
Sure.
done many transactions where people get credit cards and have to buy a new car or, get new debt during the process.
Right.
That's one of the first questions we ask on the application is between now and closing, are you going to take on any more debt? Life happens. So if that does happen, or if it needs to happen, give me a call. We'll figure it out. There's always a solution. There's different ways to approach different problems. So if we need to do that, we can, but it's best to avoid doing that right before you apply. And another reason for that too is, say you go apply for a new credit card yesterday and then you apply for a mortgage today. It might not show up on your credit report yet, but it will show up on our radar as, hey, we need to look into that. So just because you just got that loan or credit line, we still will likely find out before closing. So you can avoid those types of things. Best not to do it.
Have you had deals fall apart because people buy a car, or they go and they buy a boat right before closing, and a house, and then
haven't had any fall apart. We've always been able to salvage the deals. I mean, my job is one hurdle to the next. That's what we say. It's it's a step of hurdles if we go all the way to closing that way. One client did such, and we were able to tap into their investments to show asset depletion, which is a way of counting income. So they had X amount of dollars saved away, and we got to show that, hey, over the course of 30 years, if they were to withdraw X amount of dollars, we can count X amount of dollars in income. So again, there's ways around issues, but we certainly don't recommend folks do that. And if you need to, just give me a call and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Well, what else do you have? Anything, any other advice, wisdom?
Get your documentation kind of ready. Oh, there goes my lights. Get your documentation ready. We're going to need pay stubs, W-2s. Sometimes we need tax returns. So, kind of get that stuff ready to go. We don't always need all of it, so you don't have to have it ready on day one. What you do when you apply is we'll run through the application, we'll go through your options, and then we'll send you a list of actual documents that we need to gather. So we'll go ahead and start getting those together. If you get pay stubs, hold on to those. Don't be throwing those away. Best to hold on to those because the underwriter will need to look at them. So,
all right, cool.
Yeah.
Man, you know everything. I swear.
I could talk about this all day.
I know, right?
I do actually.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Man, thank you so much for your time. I want to say, hey, if you're thinking about buying a house, Shane is the resource for you to go to with any questions that you might have about the lending process. And I swear, I don't get paid to send people his way. I don't get any referral or anything. Shane and I have worked together on a ton of deals. And so we work together very closely to get your home purchase across the finish line. That's our responsibility. He's trustworthy. He does exactly what he says he's going to do. He's great at communication and just an all around genuine guy. And so I love working with him. We had we closed on a house a couple days ago, and our customer called us a dynamic duo. So she loved working with us, and so shout out Esther if you're watching. But,
thank you, Esther, and thank you, Jonathan and Cole team. I will say these guys know what they're doing. You talked about getting to the finish line. You need people in your corner that are going to be able to do that. And so Jonathan and I feel like we work really well together. Communication's always there. It's a team effort for all of us. So if you're looking for a realtor or a realtor team, look no further. The Cold team has your back.
I appreciate that. Hey, how can people get in touch with you if they have questions?
I will put a link to my website down in the description if we can do that. My phone number should we do phone number or do
Yeah, you can do
website?
that. Sure.
Yeah, phone number is 865-591-8562, or just go to my website. You can play with mortgage calculators, see what Movement Mortgage is all about, start your application, schedule a phone call, whatever you guys want to do. So yeah, give me a call whenever you need, and we'll start the process.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks again, man. As always, if you are thinking about buying or selling a home, we'd love to be your go-to real estate team here in Central Florida. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.
Bye now.